Liftoff will start in T-minus 10 seconds.
Hey everybody, this is Evan and John, and you're listening to the Boomer and X Show.
All right, Happy New Year, everybody, and welcome to the Boomer and X Show. And
Happy New Year!
We're recording this on the night, late on the night,
early January 5th.
January 5th,
2016.
2016. Happy New Year! This is our first episode to actually record in 2016.
Yeah, it feels different.
I feel days older than the last.
I'll tell you
time
what.
we
A
did
year
this.
ago today, you know what we were doing? Talking into my phone and then converting it to an MP3 and posting it. Actually, a year ago today, we got accepted by iTunes.
That's true.
So
we were talking into your phone, and we were sitting at my kitchen table, hoping the refrigerator wasn't going to make too much noise.
Now we have a nice little studio and all the bells and whistles.
And so you just came up with this. By the way, this is going to be a sports shorts episode.
Yes.
You came up with a little another technological advance for us, and thank goodness you do that, because goodness knows I'm not going to do it.
Definitely helps.
Where you're able to look at exactly what I'm looking at on my computer.
Yeah, and quit looking at porn.
And about 3 minutes ago, you said, "Are you ready?" And I said, "Yes, I'm ready." And
swapped the screen,
and swapped the screen, and saw that I was looking at weather information instead of sports.
You got weather porn.
I was busted.
Weather porn
Yes,
on there. Yeah.
Yes.
It was pretty funny. I was like, "No, you're not. We're doing a sports episode, dude." All right. So, like we said, today is January 5th, 2016. Our topics for today: we're going to do bowl wrap up, the bowl games, talk about them. NFL Black Sunday / Monday, and talk about some of the dysfunctional
franchises in the NFL.
Number 3 is the playoff matchups for NFL. Well, it would be the wild card.
It's the wild card round coming up this weekend. Yes.
Number 4, Super Bowls. We said we do
all 50.
Yeah, 1 through 50.
And we're going to talk briefly about 11 through 20.
11 through 20, and then the 3 teams that plan on moving to LA. That'll be that. And then, of course, we'll do some of our Mad Dashers that wouldn't fit into a 5-minute segment. So, John, if you want to, how did we do? Because we made picks on all 40. How did we do?
We made picks on all 40. I went 24-16. And
that's really good.
And you went 21-19.
That's really good, too.
So,
being that some of them we were like, I don't care versus whoever at the...
Sure.
We were just kind of...
Now some of the misses were certainly big, and this was just straight up, not against the spread.
Well, here I'll go ahead and say outright, I said Oklahoma would win it all the way. So
yeah, and I didn't make a pick on that.
You
didn't.
That
last game.
Yeah. Well, now we see why.
Yeah. A couple of things stand out. I mean, there were. It's funny. Some of the lesser games were really some of the best games. And then,
give me an example.
Well,
would TCU be one of those?
The Alamo Bowl, certainly, with the TCU coming back from being down 31-0.
I thought that was the Chick-fil-A Bowl.
No, that was the Alamo Bowl. The Chick-fil-A Bowl was Houston and Florida State, one we both missed badly on, by the way. The Alamo Bowl was probably the best game. 31-0, and then they tied 31-31 at the end of regulation, and in triple overtime.
How much of that you watched the whole game?
I had it on the whole time. Mm-hmm. During the first half, I was doing stuff, but I just never say never on a game. So I didn't turn it off. I didn't go to something else. I didn't leave and go do something else. But I had it on the first half, and then in the second half, I would say after TCU got their second score. Then I sat down and said, "Okay, I'm now it's
now again. This is with their TCU's quarterback. Was it the day before? He punched a
few days before.
Yeah.
It was like 3 or 4 days before.
So this is with
they're
backup.
on a backup quarter. But TCU had been on backups everything all year long, and they just overcame and overcame and overcame.
Mm-hmm.
But the Big 12 sort of needed that because they had been getting kicked around a lot.
What did they need? A quarterback to punch a cop in the face?
They needed a team to win a game.
Oh, okay.
They certainly needed a team to win a game.
How'd the SEC do overall?
The SEC is 8-2 so far with a game remaining, and the SEC West 6-1, with only Texas A&M losing to Louisville. Then, of course, Florida got manhandled by Michigan.
Wow, yeah.
Now,
didn't see that coming, huh?
we actually both saw that coming. We both said Michigan would handle. And remember, you and I both said, and we looked at the point, I think it was like a 4-point, and if there was one game that I was going to bet on out of all 40, and I even said at the time, I said, I might look up my account.
You did say that.
That was the one. And I wouldn't have even had to sweat it out past the first 5 minutes. And I didn't make the bet. I didn't do anything. But there was one game out of the 40 that I thought, okay, I feel confident enough to bet on. But I didn't make the bet. But the SEC West, of course, LSU with their big win against Texas Tech. If you can have a big win against a team that ends up 7-6, but
I'll tell you one of my one that really I didn't have much carry in until after I watched it was Duke, Indiana. Went in overtime. Was it 44 or 41?
Yeah, it went into
overtime. It was a good one.
Yeah.
That was a crazy one.
And the Independence Bowl with Virginia Tech and Tulsa. That game, 76 points, I believe it was 76 points had been scored before, in the first half.
Yeah.
And it ended up with the...
I wonder if they packed the house on that. Do they? I know you've been to it.
Yeah, the stadium was half full, but there were a lot of bowl games with bad crowds. And I saw that the TV ratings were down something like 13%.
I hope they take note of that. And I don't know. You think they're going to have 40 from now on?
I hope not.
Or is it going to be more?
Well, I hope not.
Yeah.
But still, again, like we talked about when we talked about the games, football's coming to an end, and if you're a football fan, and I mean a hardcore football fan like I am, you're going to watch a lot of these, and I did, and so there's only one left. So given where we are now with Clemson versus Alabama, you get a mulligan on this one.
I'm gonna say Alabama. The way they shut down the run game was very impressive, and they had no trouble scoring. So, man, I don't know. I've been saying Clemson couldn't do it all year long, and they just keep doing it. So, it's going to be a good game.
Well, while I did say that Oklahoma, we both thought Oklahoma would beat them because Oklahoma had been so dominant down the stretch.
And in Clemson, we were kind of like, well, who have they played? They have
Florida State and Notre Dame.
Notre Dame, yeah.
Of course, both of those got hammered in their bowl games. Florida State and Notre Dame, both of them got beat pretty badly. That was a new sound effect.
Yeah, sure. I was going for the ref whistle, but that was new sound effect. Let's just leave it at that.
Yeah. So we'll see what the next 5-minute sound effect brings. I'll say Bama, but I don't think Clemson is going to. If they get down, I don't think that they will.
They're not going to lay down.
No, I don't think. Right.
Yeah.
Right. They may get down, but I don't think they'll lay down. Exactly. I don't think it'll be a runaway. I just don't see Clemson because they have been solid all year long. I think they'll stay that way.
So now we have Black Sunday / Monday. Yeah, heck, it was Black Thursday when they got rid of Chip Kelly, or was it Thursday?
Yeah. I don't know, but it was
Thursday.
There was
Wednesday.
Still a game left.
Wednesday.
There was still a game left.
Yeah.
So it was.
What you mostly wanted to hit on here was some of the dysfunctional franchises, and you gave your top 5.
I've got 5, and I want to run them by you. I want to see what you think, and I might surprise you with some of these. I might not, but I'm going to say the Dallas Cowboys is my number 5 most dysfunctional franchise.
Not your number 1?
Not my.
That is surprising.
No, well, I didn't. I said dysfunctional, not hated.
Oh, okay.
Dallas. What do you think?
I agree. It just seems now Manziel. They're talking about they've always wanted Manziel or Jones.
Jones has.
So, and Jones is the main reason I will you saying Dallas is dysfunctional. He is the engine behind it all, about it all being dysfunctional. So can't blame the coach. Can't blame. Some of the players you can blame, but he keeps them around.
Well, let me ask you about the coach, Garrett. What do you think? He's been there several years. They won 4 games this year. He's been to the playoffs once.
No coach you put in there will matter. You could put Ditka in there, and Jones would still overpower him.
And I think that's exactly why he's Jones's boy. Because
he lets Jones do whatever?
Because Jones is really everything.
Yes.
And the coach is a figurehead, and everything that Jones says is going to go. And so I think because the Dallas Cowboys have exactly one playoff win since the 1990s, then they're my number 5 in dysfunctional teams.
Now, is this a 2015 dysfunctional or like all time?
Well, you can't be dysfunctional in just 1 year.
Okay.
This is what you're doing, of late. And I'm going to say Indianapolis is my number 4 team. Although, kind of in a surprise move, they did hang on to Chuck Pagano.
It was quite surprising, yes.
But there seems to be a whole lot of, even before things kind of went awry with Andrew Luck getting hurt this year, there was a lot of unhappiness, let's say, and a lot of distractors saying that the recent draft was very, very poor based on what they needed. And so apparently the GM and the owner and the coach.
Do we know what they needed and what they got?
Well, they needed linemen. They needed to protect Luck.
And now he's hurt.
And they went and got receivers. So, and based on that, based on the fact that they had such a poor year after going deep into the playoffs and, in fact, the AFC Championship game last year. Now, if I'd made this list after they decided to hang on to the coach, because I believe that turnover in coaching is a sign of dysfunction, I might not have put them on there, but I put them on and I'll leave them on for now.
Okay. I probably wouldn't put Indy on my list.
Okay.
Because, yeah, this year, like I asked, if it was this year, I'd probably put them on there, but this year would be the only reason they would be on there for me.
Okay.
The rest of the stuff isn't really bad ideas. But what else you got?
I have Miami.
That fits.
Yeah, the coach, I forget his name. He got fired early, like 4 games into the season.
They've been dysfunctional ever since they missed that field goal in the Super Bowl. And then Ace Ventura made that movie about it.
So I'm gonna say Miami. I have no idea who's going to be their next coach. I don't believe it's going to be the guy that was the interim coach.
It's not.
And and during they fired a general manager during the course of the year. They haven't been to the playoffs any lately. If they have been, it hasn't been much. So I'll go with them. The next biggest mess is San Francisco. The GM has done a horrible job. They ran off a coach who got them to the Super Bowl, lost by 3, and had a 44-19 record, and that's Jim Harbaugh. And they put in this one guy who had no experience whatsoever,
and then fired him.
After 1 year.
Mm-hmm.
So it's hard to be more dysfunctional than that. However, I do believe we have someone that's achieved it: the Cleveland Browns.
Really?
Yeah.
Yeah. Worse than getting rid of Harbaugh and firing a nobody. I mean, and hiring
a nobody.
That you didn't fire.
Yeah, because they just fired a coach, and they made what will go down as one of the historically worst draft choices
in Menzel.
Menzel.
I have stuff to say about Menzel that's current, but I'm gonna wait for the mad dash. For
okay,
that.
All right.
But other than that, I do agree with you about Cleveland being the worst. Now, I did say Indy, I would take them out, and here's a team I would put in instead of them: the New Orleans Saints.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And other than the past, I don't know, 6-7 years where they went on their runs and stuff. They're 7-9 2 years in a row.
Mm-hmm.
So, of course, there's a lot of talk about Sean Payton, is he staying and stuff. And I would say rightfully so, because you'd start questioning a coach's ability at that, So you think next year might, if something doesn't happen, because I believe he still has some time on his contract.
He does. He has a couple of years left.
So if next year goes just as bad, I'm pretty sure they might be making moves over there.
Well, I'll ask you, is Sean Payton the coach of the Saints in 2016?
Yes,
Okay.
because Drew Brees is the quarterback of the Saints.
I'm going to say yes. Although there's a lot of smoke about other things, and usually where there's smoke, there's fire. There are other teams. I think that Peyton and
What,
Brees.
other teams making offers or something?
Yeah, for Peyton. There's even talk of getting draft picks as compensation for him going to.
Does that happen? A coach for draft picks?
Well, it's being talked about.
I could see them doing that for Brees, because you kind of think Sean Payton and Brees are one and the same, but that might just be in the Saints.
At the risk of being wrong, I'm going to say that Peyton is there next year, and
I will say as long as Drew Brees is there, Peyton's got his job. I'll say that.
I think if that goes, then they'll both be there next year.
Yeah, that's why I say that.
On to wild card playoff weekend coming up. I've got 2 AFC and 2 NFC games. Evan, we got the Kansas City Chiefs, winners 10 in a row, playing at the Houston Texans.
I'm gonna love this game because the Houston Texans defense and J.J. Watt specifically is just so dominant right now, and they're at home.
They are at home,
so. But the Chiefs has found a way to start scoring touchdowns.
Well, the Chiefs have won 10 in a row.
Yeah,
and also one of their losses, and I think this was in week 2. They were way ahead of the Denver Broncos and just had a complete meltdown in the fourth quarter and had the ball bounced the wrong way a couple of times and they lost a game they should have won. And I believe they had a hangover from that game, from that loss, for 2 or 3 weeks. But once they righted the ship, they've won 10 in a row. And while I hear people talking about, hey, they've won 10 in a row and isn't that great, I don't hear anybody talking about them as being a possible AFC representative in the Super Bowl, but I think they are.
You do?
I do. I didn't say they would, but
okay.
I think that they deserve to be in the conversation.
Well, yeah, definitely, yeah.
Well, because New England is beat to hell and back, and nobody's healthy, and they lost a game in Miami last week that they really needed to win to maintain home field. There are quarterback issues in Denver.
Well, I don't know. Manning came back.
They had quarterback issues when he was playing. They did, but they beat San Diego. Yeah. But that's not I don't want to get too far down that rabbit hole because they're not playing this week. Pittsburgh is Cincinnati. What's in Pittsburgh's favor is the fact that Cincinnati hasn't won a playoff game in 25 years, and Pittsburgh has won, if I heard this correctly, 21 out of their last 26 games in the city of Cincinnati.
Wow, and they're going to Cincinnati,
and they are favored.
You know, I want to say the same thing I said last week, but guess what? They didn't win. No, not last week, because they just won. They beat Cleveland. Week 4 last, Baltimore. I said they need to win. They have to win. They've got every reason to win,
and they didn't win.
They didn't. And that's kind of what I want to say here. But all that's being said, I'm going Steelers.
As a Steelers fan, here's what really. Now I told you what I liked about it. Now I'll tell you what worries me. Last year, they got their running back hurt in the last regular season game of the season, and then lost ugly in the first playoff game. What happened last week against Cleveland? D'Angelo Williams gets hurt. Last regular season game of the season. Last regular season game. So they don't have a running
superstitions
back.
Kicking
No,
in.
I don't know the superstition. I'm just saying. Look, defensively, if week before last they lost to Ryan Mallett,
yeah, they did.
Then AJ McCarron. AJ McCarron, hell, he's every bit as good as Ryan Mallett, and probably better. So you're down a running back, and while Big Ben and Antonio Brown and these other guys can be absolutely spectacular, Big Ben has thrown a lot of interceptions lately. So are they going to, which one is going to show up? The 4-touchdown, 450-yard Ben or the 2-touchdown, 2-interception Ben? Running game is going to be iffy. Passing defense can't defend anything. I'm worried about the Steelers. I think Cincinnati, I'm going to say it, I think Cincinnati breaks their streak and they win a playoff game for the first time since you were a 1-year-old. And I hope I'm wrong. As a diehard Steelers fan, I hope I'm wrong. In the NFC, we have Seattle, which everybody's calling the most dangerous team, and nobody wants to play them, blah, 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 blah. I'm going to say Minnesota wins this game.
Why? Because
because it's going to be 0 degrees, and they're playing outdoors.
Well, they're at home, though.
Minnesota's going to win the game.
Oh, I thought you were saying Seahawks.
Seattle is the one that everybody's praising to high heaven, who 2 weeks ago lost handily at home to St. Louis. And I know that they beat the hell out of Arizona this past weekend, but Arizona wasn't trying. So that doesn't tell me anything. Doesn't mean anything to me. And Green Bay at Washington is game number 4. The Packers have been ugly the past 2/3 of the last 2/3 of the season.
They got to go to the Redskins.
And Cousins is, Cousins this year threw for more yardage than any other Washington
he's their
quarterback ever.
He's their quarterback.
And through all of the early season ugliness of RG3 and Cousins, hey, the whistle's back. I guess we came to terms with our referee union here at the Boomer and X show, and they've come back to work. No more replacement sound effects. I'm going to say Washington beats Green Bay. I would like it to be the other way around, but I'm going to say Washington. What do you think?
Yeah, sure. They're at home. They just got beat. Green Bay just got beat by the Vikings. Now, one thing that's interesting is Aaron Rodgers plays, out of any quarterback ever seen, he plays best after a loss. So I kind of like to see how he does, But it's going to be a good. I think all 4 of these games are going to be worth watching for sure.
I do too.
Yeah,
I absolutely do too.
I don't see any blowout. I don't see any blowout potential. I see good defensive matchups, high offensive scorings.
What do you think about Seattle, Minnesota?
I'm gonna go Seahawks.
Okay,
because quarterback.
Okay, so I've got KC, Cincinnati, Minnesota, and Washington, and you have Houston?
Yeah, Texans, Steelers, Seahawks, and let's go Packers.
All right. Moving on to Super Bowls 11 through 20 as we continue our look at Super Bowl history. Super Bowl 11 was won by the Oakland Raiders over the Minnesota Vikings. Dallas Cowboys won the next one. The Pittsburgh Steelers won the next 2. One of them against Dallas in the first ever Super Bowl rematch. And both of those games were Steelers by 4 points.
Mm-hmm. And then Oakland and let's see.
Oakland beat the Eagles.
We're going up to 20, right?
Yeah, going up to 20.
And then San Francisco beat the Bengals.
Beat Cincinnati. I remember that game very well because my
82 Pontiac Silver.
My son was about 3.5 weeks old when that game was played. I just remember that very well.
It was -8.
Washington Redskins beat the Miami Dolphins in Super Bowl 17. The Raiders,
Los Angeles Raiders,
exactly. And we're going to talk about that in a minute.
Yep.
Tore the Washington Redskins a new one 38-9 in Super Bowl 19. The 49ers beat the Dolphins, and in Super Bowl 20, the Bears beat the Patriots. The Patriots were making their first of, count them, 8 Super Bowl
and we did
appearances.
Have to count them.
Yes.
We did.
8.
So what is the most seats, I guess, most people in a stadium?
In the Rose Bowl. The Rose Bowl in Pasadena, California, and it's hosted a few of the games. Not to be confused with the Los Angeles Coliseum, but the Rose Bowl.
Pasadena, right?
Yep. And the greatest attendance, just shy of 104,000, was the year that the Pittsburgh Steelers beat the Los Angeles Rams, and in that game, by the way, Terry Bradshaw, 3 touchdown passes, 3 or 4, and got his second straight MVP, Super Bowl MVP, and his 4th trophy.
4th Super Bowl
trophy, yeah.
Dang, yeah, that's right, because they did all that within
6 years.
6 years, yeah.
Yeah, 4 championships in a 6-year span.
Kind of torched it.
The Super Bowl, and at this point, it had pretty much been Miami, Los Angeles, and New Orleans. I mean, it kind of almost exclusively just those 3. But they started to branch out a little bit. You had Tampa, Florida, host their first one. You had Stanford, California, which is more Northern California, host one.
I mean, you had Michigan. They had one in there.
Pontiac, Michigan, and it was cold.
I can imagine.
Yeah. And
January 24th in Michigan?
In Michigan, yeah. And it took them a while before they felt the urge to repeat granting a northern city. I mean, it has happened since then, but it took a while before they did that.
Yeah, because they just did the one in New York,
Just
3 years ago?
3 or 4 years ago.
And I remember everyone saying they should never do a Super Bowl outside ever.
Now, of course, the one in Pontiac was played inside.
But still.
But you had to get to it, and it was, I think it was single digits. I mean, it was,
it's Michigan in
it wasn't
January.
Tailgating weather, certainly. It certainly wasn't. So, certainly by this time, the Super Bowl, 11 through 20, is becoming more of an event. But I don't think it's become quite as much of an event just yet to where people are even watching the Super Bowl for commercials. I think that probably...
Yeah, like you said, that kind of got going more in the
80s, mid to late 80s.
Yeah, I was about to say late 80s.
Yeah. But it was certainly becoming... I'm going to say that it is, at this point, especially by the time you get to, between 15 and 20, it is rivaling the World Series for sports importance in the United States.
Do you know, and as the seconds tick off of our little 5-minute clock, who has the most Super Bowl rings?
I'm going to say it's several players with 4. Okay.
There's a guy with 5.
Okay. Who?
Amongst all players of all time, Charles Haley, who played from 1986 to 1999. Only player in the NFL history to win 5 Super Bowl rings.
Okay, it had to be with 2 different teams.
Notable players who have won 4: Joe Montana, Bill Romanowski, Adam Vinatieri, who I thought had the record.
The referees are back with a vengeance.
And Ronnie Lott, Matt Millen, and Terry Bradshaw. Those all have 4, so they're all tied for a big gap from first to second.
But there were more. I mean, there were several Steelers that had 4 because Jack Lambert, Jack Ham, Joe Green, Franco Harris.
Hey man, don't question Google.
All right. Well, Google. I'm pretty sure
this must be talking about I don't know, quarterbacks. What? No,
not
Adam Vinatieri.
Not everybody you named was a quarterback.
That's true. I don't know.
Maybe maybe some of those Steelers weren't around for the first one. That's possible. I don't know.
Could be.
I thought a lot of them were there from the get-go. But all right, that's Super Bowls 11 through 20 for the most part. We'll hit 21 through 30 on our next episode.
Now, this last category, we have 3 teams, and I guess they all 3 made a bid. They want to go to the Qualcomm Stadium in Los Angeles.
Yes.
Almost said Vegas. Los Angeles. Thoughts?
Well, the 3 teams are the Oakland Raiders, who's spent 13 seasons in Los Angeles back in the 80s and part of the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
So they want to go back. The San Diego Chargers, who apparently have been trying since...
For a while. It says at least 2003.
To get a stadium and haven't. And the St. Louis Rams, who originally were the Los Angeles Rams. I'm going to say this. To me, Raiders and Oakland belong.
I was about to say the same thing. Oakland and the Raiders are the same.
When they were in LA back when they were, the Los Angeles Raiders just sounded funny. It just didn't.
Didn't you say that what was their initial name?
The Seniors.
The Seniors.
The Seniors. The Oakland Seniors back in the old AFL days. They were an AFL team, and they got in on the merger thing.
Now do they all want to go there because is it a bigger market, the South California market?
Well, I mean, San Diego's in Southern California, certainly, but it's nowhere near as big as Los Angeles.
So, do they want the stadium? Is that what?
But there's not a new stadium.
Yeah, it's true. The Qualcomm is one of the oldest and probably.
Yeah, so
I bet they can't even fit as many as they can now. I bet there's capacity is probably less.
I don't know. I mean, the teams that want to move aren't among the most valuable teams, franchises in the NFL.
No, they are actually almost last. The Rams are last as far as Forbes rates them, and the Chargers and Oakland are right there, 25 and 26 and something like that.
But here's what makes me wonder if the whole move to LA thing fixes anything. The Rams were there and left. The Raiders were there and left. If it's so wonderful, why have two teams left?
Yeah, I have the same questions. Like, what's so great about going to Los Angeles if you can't keep a team there? Like, I don't know.
And I can't tell you
too many Lakers fans.
I can't. Well, there's 20 million people living around there. They can support both. I mean, for crying out loud, the New Orleans can support the Saints and the Pelicans. So
yeah,
but so I don't know why the teams left. Those weren't stories that I followed real closely, and I don't know why they left. But I can say that I don't really care whether one of the other teams, whether San Diego goes there or the Rams go back and become the Los Angeles Rams. I don't know. It doesn't really make any difference to me.
I keep seeing stuff about mayors. What do the mayors have so much to do with the team other than they lobby for a team to come?
Well, because see, a lot of these teams, they want public money to be a part of the investment. I mean, they want some subsidized. They don't want to pay for everything. They don't want to have to pay. They don't want to have to build their own stadium, spend $1 billion of their own money building their own stadium. Although I think Jerry Jones probably did that in Dallas.
Yeah, I see something about the Chargers. They lobbied for a new stadium since 2003, and then the city was forced to plug a gaping hole in its pension, nicknamed Enron by the Sea, which left no money for the team.
Well, what's more important?
Yeah.
So
your economy in the city.
The pension of the workers or a football team. I don't know.
I see the collapse of the real estate market ended other bids. So obviously there's a lot of moving parts at play, but I keep seeing something about the mayor, something about stadium cost and all that, and you explained
they
why,
want public money.
Yeah,
they don't want to spend all of their
so the
own
owner
money.
Isn't the one throwing down every penny for all this.
No, they want tax dollars.
The city, yeah,
that's what they want.
So do the teams? I know they bring in a lot of money, but is it worth, like, say, a mayor funding it with whatever they can fund it with?
Well, and that's the question.
Is it worth?
And that's the question. And here's something. And I can't. I haven't looked in it deeply enough to be able to tell you that. Although I will say that any proposal has to get the approval of 24 of the 32 owners in the league.
Okay.
So it's got to clear that hurdle.
And then what? Congress?
Nope. It has nothing to do with Congress. It's all. I mean, the league. The league is its body.
I'm sure Los Angeles
governing body here.
Somebody in Los Angeles, some kind of board or something, would vote.
Well, if you're going to build, if you're going to build a new stadium for a team, then that's going to have to probably go before the voters.
Now, what's more likely? Bulldoze Qualcomm Stadium and build a new one, or build a new one somewhere else?
Everything I've heard says that this will take place by the 2016 season, so there won't be any building a new stadium.
Yeah,
you're going to play in what you're already in. And if Qualcomm is that old and outdated, I'm not sure I see the attraction.
Moving on to Mad Dashers. You got Coughlin out at Giants.
Do you think he should be? Apparently the story is he stepped down. That's the story. What do you think? He's 69 years old.
Yeah, I was about to say, he's got some age. He, I don't know. Here's not much of an opinion on the guy.
They had not made the playoffs in the past 4 years, and, he's got 2 Super Bowl trophies. Why not?
I think he's been riding, should have retired a couple of years ago, kind of
probably
playing, and now he's just getting off of it.
Does he go in somewhere else as a head coach?
I would be extremely surprised.
I would too, at this advanced age, but I don't think he's through coaching.
As in what, high school?
No. I don't know that he wants, that somebody wants to take on a head coach, because I believe there's only been 2 that have gone as late as 72 years old, and so that would give him just 3 years. And I don't know that you start something, you start trying to build a new program, a new direction with someone that's about to turn 70. But I think he still has something to offer the game. I just think head coach is a little much. I don't know, maybe be a GM or something.
What does it take to become a GM?
Oh,
a couple of Super Bowl trophies.
I would think that certainly helps.
Well, he's got that prerequisite checked off.
So let's see. We already talked about Sean Payton. Is he coaching the Saints in 2016? And you and I will both say yes.
Yeah, because like I said, he's tied hand in hand to Drew Brees, and Drew Brees ain't going anywhere. Everyone's talking about Peyton, not Brees, although I did hear today that Drew Brees does not need surgery for his little foot injury.
Well, that's good. Of course, at this point, it doesn't matter. They're not playing any more football this year.
Surgery is surgery. You don't
yeah.
like having a long list that he pretty much already has. I'm sure his list is quite extensive already.
I'll say right now, I think they're both back in 2016, and I hope they are. We went through an interesting process, you and I and several other people, on Sunday afternoon and evening. We got together and had a little meeting of our fantasy league. This is not the Boomer and X team.
Yeah, we've left the Boomer this league out. This is my brother's is who it started with, and we've kind of grabbed.
And this was my introduction.
Yeah,
you brought me in 2013,
and you won 2013 and 14,
right?
So this year, we've got we made it paid league.
Mm-hmm.
And there's always been the trophy that we always covet, and pass around and keep for the year. Now, we had a big majority of everyone there, except for token few.
Mm-hmm.
And so we voted in rule changes and all this stuff. And, man, it got, I don't want to say heated, it got intense.
Well, there were strong opinions on a couple of different sides of a couple of different issues.
We had a conundrum where we had a guy who didn't pay, and we were like, do we kick the guy and stuff like that? So that got, that was a big part of it. Rule changes like defensive, scoring more and stuff like that. And it was pretty cool. It was fun. It's a fun hobby to have, and it's cool that, everyone else loves it as much to care like they did to.
Well, you won this year.
Oh, yeah.
You won this year. Also. You won, and you got the money and my trophy.
Yeah,
and which has had my name on it for 2 years, so now it'll have your name on it.
Yes,
we all gathered. I mean, we knew I wasn't going to win. I was not in the final, so I knew I was going to be giving the trophy up. As it turned out, you did not have the most points in the final week.
No, that's one of the things.
The
guy who won
didn't. The guy who won was the guy who had not paid his huge fee of $25.
So yeah, we had to,
and so it came down
winner by default.
Well, you won.
I did, and I definitely had the biggest record. The best record.
You had the best regular season record, and
you
had the most points during the regular season as well.
So I didn't feel like it. Yeah,
no. I thought the differences of opinion on how to handle this was one of the most interesting aspects of it. Now, I was probably the hardest line guy there.
Line guy?
Hard line. Took a hard line. I took the hardest line of anybody there.
One of the rules we did change that I really liked was week 17 is gone, and now our finals are week 16. I've been harping on that for years.
You have been. And week 17, if it hadn't been for the disqualification, would have been you and the ass again this year.
Exactly.
so
last week I scored 200-something points, whereas this week I didn't even make 100. Because you've got your starter sitting on the bench and all kind of other stupid problems. Next year, I won't complain.
Next year's week 16.
Yeah.
And you and I will be going up against each other in the finals.
Okay.
All right. Johnny Manziel's in the news again for all the wrong reasons. Apparently, he wore wigs and glasses and everything else and went out to Vegas and had himself a good time.
Look, I know apparently he got a week off or whatever, an early week, because they're off now, but apparently he got an early week off now. He's on concussion protocol, but the guy must have really took a lick on the head to think it was okay to go to Vegas.
Yeah, I don't think he had a concussion. I'm not buying that story.
So he tried lying and saying he posted a picture of him and his dog saying, "I'm not in Vegas, I'm hanging out with my dog. Like, this is what we do on Saturday night."
I tell you what, I am so sick of him and his stories. I was sick of him in college. I didn't like his whole act. I didn't like his whole money, Johnny football thing, his whole money thing. I didn't like him at A&M. I don't like him at Cleveland. And here's where I will love to hate him the most. If he and Jerry Jones get their way and end up marrying each other in AT&T Jerry World Stadium, it looks to me like Johnny Manziel has repaid the people of Cleveland and the Cleveland Browns organization for their faith and their support and their, hey, let's take a chance on you. It looks like he has repaid that by doing everything he can intentionally to get kicked out kicked off the team and sent to where he apparently really wants to be, and that's Dallas.
Yeah,
That really looks like what's going on.
I think when he didn't get drafted by Dallas, you think he's been trying to get back to Dallas this whole time? Like
I don't know if it's been the whole time, but this year that's what it's looked like.
Yeah.
It has looked like that this year.
I mean,
I hope he gets his
dude
way.
showed up wearing a blonde wig, a mustache, glasses, and a hoodie, and was calling himself Billy.
I hope he
That's
gets his
just-
way. I hope he ends up in Dallas, because next to Greg Hardy, I can't think of a player in the NFL that I despise more. I can't.
Well, that seems to be wrapping it up.
We'll come back next week and we will talk about the we'll talk about the Alabama Clemson game, and we will review next week's playoff games in the NFL.
Yeah, we will hit all of those. Let's see. I mean, we usually don't have all 5 categories until we've seen everything.
Yeah,
So.
yeah.
But those are definites. We're definitely going to hit those.
A little more Super Bowl history.
Yep, 21 through 30.
Yep.
And we're counting that down. And if y'all want to get a hold of us, go. You can email us at theboomernextshow@yahoo.com. Go check out our website, theboomernextshow.com. That is, you can contact us on there as well. We keep that updated with some of our recent episodes and ways to contact us as well. Hit us up on Twitter at BoomerNextShow and also Facebook. And John, I'm all out of words. What you got?
I think I ran out of words about 35 seconds ago.
Well, y'all take it easy. Have a good one.